Radio from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
From the VON Newsline, this is the VON Major Newscast.
Good evening, I am Jarvis Bonnie with your VON Major News Package for today, Friday, April 3rd, 2020. In our lead stories nationally, Prime Minister Harris will be guest on Inside the News, Von Radio to bring live coverage of the proceedings, and Minister of Labour explains relief fund and says no need for anyone to visit Social Security at this time. Regionally, Sister of Immigration Minister is the Bahamas' first COVID-19 related fatality. Internationally, experts tell White House coronavirus can spread through talking or even just breathing. And in sports, Cummins keeping fit and healthy and hopes to return to cricket soon. We'll have the details to these and other stories after this message. Welcome back on now on to the national news in detail. Prime Minister Dr. The Honorable Timothy Harris will be the special guest on the WIN 98.9 FM's Inside the News tomorrow, Saturday, April 4th at 11 a.m. The Prime Minister's appearance will be broadcast live here on Von Radio at 6:60 a.m. as well as vonradio.com. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Mrs. Dolores Stapleton Harris, will also appear on the proceedings. Yesterday, Thursday, April 2nd, the Prime Minister announced that further emergency powers COVID-19 regulations were to take effect from 6:01 today, April 3rd. These new regulations are called the Emergency Powers COVID-19 No. 3 Regulations 2020 and are set to expire at 7 p.m. on Thursday, April 9th, 2020. The Prime Minister also announced that a full 24-hour curfew or total lockdown will be reintroduced tomorrow, Saturday, April 4th from 7 p.m. running up to 6 a.m. on Wednesday, April 8th. Minister of Labour and Social Security, the Honourable Vance Amory, has sought to provide some clarification on the relief fund, which was announced by Prime Minister Dr. the Honourable Timothy Harris in response to COVID-19. Additionally, the fund was created to assist employees and employers with additional finance because of the economic impact the virus has caused globally and in particular nationally. Minister Amory explains.
This emergency relief fund will pay up to $1,000 monthly for 3 months in the first instance to persons whose income has been impacted by COVID-19. Let me make it abundantly clear that the $1,000 is the maximum amount which will be paid to any person who has suffered a loss of income. Where any worker who receives a part-time or reduced hour and receives some payment, the Social Security Board will top up the amount which is received to make it $1,000 in total.
Minister Amory also gave a further insight.
For example, if someone is paid during this period of income impairment $400 for the work for reduced hours, Social Security will pay an additional $600 so that the person then gets the $1,000 which the COVID Emergency Fund has promised. Let me repeat, there is no need for anyone to visit Social Security to collect any payment at this time.
And Social Security, Minister of Labour and Social Security, the Honourable Vance Amory. Well-deserved advancements were recently announced for several police officers, with 2 corporals promoted to the rank of acting sergeant and 5 constables promoted to acting corporal, according to a release from the police force. During a recently held ceremony at the police headquarters, Commissioner of Police Hilwy Brandy handed the officers their letters, which he said reflected that their promotion took effect as of December 2019. The officers promoted to acting sergeant were Corporals Elise Maloney and Javon Weeks. The 5 promoted to acting corporal were Constables Randolph Diamond, Abigail Percival Allen, Damian Challenger, Clive Wilson, and Hortensia Boyles Matthew. Commissioner Brandy was joined by Assistant Commissioners of Police ACP Andrew Mitchell, Adolph Adams, MacArthur Brown, and Force Personnel Officer Clifford Govaya. The Commissioner congratulated the officers on their promotion and encouraged them to continue working hard, striving for continuous improvement and aiming to perform at a rank higher than their present ranks. The regulations put in place to stop the spread of COVID-19 by and large make provisions for the Commissioner of Police to exercise a discretion with respect to any activity in which someone wants to engage. This includes farming and fishing, says Prime Minister Dr. The Honorable Timothy Harris. The Prime Minister said this in response to a question asked at the Leadership Town Hall meeting held on March 31st. The caller asked what provisions are in place for farmers to attend their crops and livestock in spite of the 24-hour and 14-day curfew rather. Prime Minister Harris stated that importantly the regulations are put in place to contain the spread of the virus. He added that patterns of farming will have to undergo changes as persons have to respect that in normal times certain things which were advisable could not in abnormal turbulent times be acceptable anymore. Prime Minister Harris said that he understands that it is difficult for the farmers and fishers and a special carve-out may need to be made for these people. The Prime Minister has urged sensitivity because once we continue down the road of making exception after exception, then the elements which are attempting to have the social distancing, the physical distancing, we will see the minimization of that in later time. The public is hereby advised that the Social Security COVID-19 Emergency Relief Fund has been established. In partnership with the Labor Department, Social Security will facilitate the payment of up to EC $1,000 monthly for 3 months in the first instance. That's according to a release from the St. Christopher and Nevis Social Security Board and the Department of Labor. The first payment will be made as soon as possible, and the grant will be paid to all working persons whose income has been directly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. These include 1. Full-time and part-time employees who have been laid off, 2. Employed but with reduced hours, 3. Made redundant as a result of the pandemic, and 4. Registered self-employed persons whose income is impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Taking into account the nationwide protective measures enforced by the statutory rules and orders number 9 of 2020 Emergency Powers COVID-19 number 2 Regulations 2020, the Labor Department and Social Security are diligently working together to make the payments seamlessly. According to the release, they urged everyone to remain calm and do not panic as they continue to work in the best interest of all. Additional updates will be provided as the situation unfolds, and for more inquiries, persons can contact the Labor Department at 662-2075. And COVID-19 has changed social and economic interactions that will require mental, emotional, and financial adjustment if people are to survive. That is the view of leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party SKNLP, Dr. The Honorable Timothy Harris, Dr. The Honorable Denzel Douglas rather, who said that COVID-19 coronavirus knows no national boundaries. It doesn't care whether you are young, old, rich or poor, and it doesn't care what your political affiliation is, Dr. Douglas added. Noting the confirmation of 8 positive cases in St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Douglas said that based on the epidemiology of this highly contagious disease, whereby each person carrying the virus will infect at least 2 persons, the number of persons testing positive for the disease is expected to rise exponentially during the next few days and weeks. Dr. Douglas encouraged all citizens and residents to respect the mandatory total lockdown that has been issued by the authorities. Dr. Douglas further called on the authorities to use the period of lockdown to put in place all of the measures needed to address and arrest this health crisis. Additionally, as of yesterday, Thursday, April 2nd, St. Kitts and Nevis recorded its 9th confirmed case of the virus. And that's it for our national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vonradio.com, or you can check us out on Facebook at Von Radio or our Von Radio YouTube channel for these and other stories. News from across the region is next. Welcome back and now on to the regional news. The Bahamas has reported its first death related to the new coronavirus, and authorities confirmed on Wednesday that a 57-year-old woman, the sister of Minister of Financial Services Ellsworth Johnson, passed away on Tuesday. Kim Johnson-Rowe died on the way from the island of Bimini, where she resided, to New Providence. At 9:45 a.m. today, Bahamas has 24 cases of the virus. The country's Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis said the best weapons in fighting the community spread of COVID-19 remain physical distancing and people staying at home. While thanking those who are following the regulations and guidelines, Mr. Minnis chastised those who fail to comply and are risking their health and the health of others. He reiterated that except for emergency personnel, there is to be no domestic travel within the country by plane or boat. He urged residents to leave home only to purchase necessities if they are essential services workers. Dr. Minnis also reported that 50 of the country's medical and healthcare professionals who are putting themselves at risk to save lives and to help the sick to recover have had to be taken out of the system because of the exposure to the virus. Hours after reporting Guyana's third death from the new coronavirus on Wednesday, Minister of Public Health Volda Lawrence has confirmed the fatalities now stand at 4. The latest to die is a man from Region 4. His was the third death in 2 days, and on Tuesday the country's second COVID-19 fatality was recorded. The first was recorded on March 11th, and Guyana, as of today, has reported 19 COVID-19 cases. Meantime, the government has rubbished a post on social media that President David Granger had tested positive for COVID-19. President David Granger is not afflicted with the novel coronavirus and is enjoying good health, stated the Ministry of the Presidency, adding that Granger continues to work daily to lead the nation through this difficult time. The ministry condemned the post as distasteful and urged people to refrain from causing public panic and to utilize their public voices and platforms responsibly. In other regional news, with many countries in the Caribbean and the rest of the Americas now reporting community transmission of COVID-19, there is still a short window of time for governments to slow the spread of the virus, reduce the impact on health systems and save lives, says Pan American Health Organization PAHO's director, Dr. Carissa Etienne. As has been seen in other regions of the world, cases are expected to escalate in the region of the Americas. Countries must take urgent action to prepare hospitals and health facilities for what is coming, an influx of COVID-19 patients that will need hospital space, beds, health professionals and medical equipment. The Barbados government has imposed limits of operating hours of essential businesses and put more restrictions on when residents can leave their home as the confirmed cases of the novel coronavirus increased by 11 in a 2-day period. A mandatory 14-day quarantine in a government facility is also now in effect for anyone entering Barbados and not just visitors from the United States and United Kingdom as was the case previously. Acting Prime Minister Sanchez Bradshaw outlined these and other measures last evening in a televised address to the nation in which she announced that the number of COVID-19 cases stood at 45. She said the action had to be taken because some people were not complying with restrictions, including the 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. curfew that went into effect last weekend. These measures were all intended to reduce the amount of person-to-person contact and exposure of the population and so reduce the risk of spread of COVID-19. They were designed to protect us all. This reckless and irresponsible behavior has continued in spite of the warnings from the COVID-19 task force on Monday that the government of Barbados was prepared to further extend and strengthen the restrictions should this behavior continue. After initially closing BVI borders, the government was effectively forced to allow entry to locals who were traveling from countries affected by the coronavirus disease COVID-19. Premier Andrew Foy said that gave that indication last Friday, while outlining reasons for his government's COVID-19 Control and Suppression Miscellaneous Provision Act, which forces persons into a mandatory 2-week quarantine if traveling from certain countries. Speaking in the House of Assembly, Mr. Foy said, "The only reason we came here with the bill is there were those, when the borders were closed, started to argue legal points that the country cannot shut out its nationals." It became a legal discussion and a legal argument, so what happened is that some of their own people pushed back at the government legally that they have to be able to come back home. And in the U.S. Virgin Islands, the Department of Health has provided its latest update on confirmed coronavirus cases in the USVI, with St. Thomas as of Thursday having the most cases with 24. On St. Croix, the number remained at 11 and 2 on St. John. The Department of Health is releasing the numbers via the Virgin Islands Territorial Emergency Management Agency and has not been providing details on how the latest spread occurred, nor has it been including information on gender or age of the new confirmed cases, according to the VI Consortium. Based on the latest update, 154 cases have returned negative in the country and there are 57 pending, and the Department of Health has said 29 people have recovered from the virus. And that's it for our regional news segment. Stay with us for news around the world. Welcome back on the one to the international news. A prestigious scientific panel told the White House Wednesday night that research shows coronavirus can be spread not just by sneezes or coughs, but also just by talking or possibly even just breathing. While the current coronavirus-specific research is limited, the results of available studies are consistent with aerolization of virus from normal breathing, according to the letter written by Dr. Harvey Feinberg, chairman of a committee with the National Academy of Sciences. Feinberg told CNN that he will start to wear a mask when he goes to the grocery store. Dr. Anthony Fauci, a key member of the White House's coronavirus task force, told CNN on Tuesday that the idea of recommending broad use of masks in the United States to prevent the spread of coronavirus is under very active discussion by the group. Ventilators will be taken from certain New York hospitals and redistributed to the worst-hit parts of the state under an order to be signed by Governor Andrew Cuomo. New York saw its highest single-day increase in deaths, up by 562 to 2,935, nearly half of all virus-related deaths across the U.S. yesterday. The White House may advise those in virus hotspots to wear face coverings in public to help stem the spread. The U.S. now has 245,658 COVID-19 cases. A shortage of several hundred ventilators in New York City, the epicenter of the outbreak in the United States, prompted Mr. Cuomo to say that he will order the machines be taken from various parts of the state and give them to hard-hit areas. Amid a deepening crisis, top health official Dr. Anthony Fauci has said he believes all states should issue stay-at-home orders. The comments from Dr. Fauci, who heads the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, appeared to contradict those of President Donald Trump, who has consistently dismissed the notion of a nationwide lockdown. Several healthcare workers in India have been attacked as they battle to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Reports say doctors have been spat at and chased away from homes, and that in one case, patients directed abusive and vulgar language towards female nurses. Some physicians and their families have also been ostracized by their neighbors because of their exposure to patients infected with COVID-19. India has reported more than 2,300 cases and at least 50 people have died. One video, which has gone viral, showed a mob throwing stones at two female doctors wearing personal protective equipment in the central city of Indore. The doctors had gone to a densely populated area to check on a woman suspected of having COVID-19 when they came under attack. And Australia's Chief Medical Officer CMO has said that the actual number of coronavirus cases worldwide could be higher than the 1 million known cases. As at 9:45 a.m. today, 1,039,922 cases of the virus were recorded. According to the BBC, Dr. Brendan Murphy told a news briefing that the underreporting was due to inconsistent testing in some countries.
Past 1 million reported cases of COVID-19. We believe that the true number is probably 5 or 10 times as much as that, because we know that, judging by the death rate, the testing rate, in many countries they're not detecting all the cases. There are some countries that don't have the capacity to test.
And that brings us to the end of our news segment. The latest in sports is next.
At the Bank of Nevis, we know you have your personal as well as your business needs, and we're here to help. Our knowledgeable staff will work with you to help you achieve the financial success that you or your company needs in a competitive market. We offer solutions to make your banking experience easier, like our savings and checking accounts. Be sure to ask about our youth savers accounts and our Bank of Nevis Go Club. We offer a wide range of personal loans, including mortgage, land, student, auto, and consumer loans. Have access to your funds instantly with our BeOnline internet banking and our debit and credit cards. We make international banking and investing easy. How's your business? Give it the leverage it really needs by letting the Bank of Nevis assist you with all the necessary funding for all your business expenses. It's that easy. What are you waiting for? The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life.
Like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/The Bank of Nevis.
Welcome back on to the sports. In cricket, Australian fast bowler Pat Cummins is keeping fit and healthy during the current pandemic crisis and hoping to return to the game as soon as possible. Cummins, like other Australian players, was due to be playing in the Indian Premier League during the side's official leave period, which began today. He says with so many unknowns, he hopes at worst the ICC T20 World Cup will be played later this year, with the in-form Australian side one of the favourites to lift the trophy. Cummins is the current ICC Test Player of the Year with 59 wickets from 12 Test matches. He was also one of 5 Australians chosen in the ICC Test Team of the Year with Mitchell Starc, Nathan Lyon, Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne. Australia recorded an unbeaten home summer for the first time in a decade with clean sweeps in the Gillette T20 International Series against Sri Lanka and Pakistan, a 2-0 Domain Test Series victory against Pakistan and a 3-0 Domain Test Series win against New Zealand. Still in cricket, England men's centrally contracted players will make an initial donation of £500,000 to the England and Wales Cricket Board and selected good causes amid the ongoing coronavirus crisis, the Professional Cricketers Association has announced. In addition, centrally contracted members of the England women's team will take a voluntary salary reduction in April, May and June. The reduction is in line with those taken by coaches and support staff. The announcement comes after several days of discussions over how the country's leading cricketers might respond to the pandemic. A statement from the PCA said the donation from the men's team is the equivalent of all of the England centrally contracted players taking a 20% reduction in their monthly returners for the next 3 months. The details of the charitable donation are to be determined over the next week. The 2020 cricket season has been put on hold until at least May 28th because of the coronavirus crisis. Still in sports, in golf, the LPGA Tour will not resume after the coronavirus pandemic until the majority of international players are able to compete in tournaments, said Commissioner Mike Wan. Today, it was announced that the U.S. Women's Open, scheduled to take place in June, had been moved to December. The next 5 LPGA events have been postponed or cancelled. I couldn't see us running an event where half of our players couldn't play, said Mr. Wan. One also said the sweeping changes announced to the LPGA schedule were designed to provide clarity for players and caddies. In football, the restart date for the Premier League has been pushed back. All 20 Premier League clubs met via video, and it is accepted by all that there is no hope of professional games being played immediately after the current April 30th deadline. The Premier League could shift the date back into May or opt to follow Spain and France, who have shut down their leagues for an indefinite period. Italy have talked have talked of Serie A returning in late May, but that seems optimistic. European governing body UEFA has written a joint letter with the European Clubs Association and the European leagues urging domestic bodies not to abandon their competitions. Leagues across Europe have been told that ending competitions early could result in them forfeiting Champions League and Europa League places. Pushing the date back would allow Premier League clubs the chance to offer their stadiums and medical staff to the National Health Service, knowing they would not be required in the short term. And in basketball, Houston Rockets combo guard Austin Rivers went on IG Live and talked about the NBA's proposal to players if the 2019-2020 season is resumed. The Rockets guard said teams would get 2 practices before starting up the season again, and all the games would be in Las Vegas. Austin Rivers said teams would get 2 practices before starting up the season again, and all the games would be in Las Vegas apparently, and that is one of the propositions. The NBA could look at resuming games at venues in a centralized location, with Las Vegas reportedly emerging as the best possible location. Austin Rivers and the Rockets were in 6th place in the Western Conference standings before the 2019-2020 season was suspended. Houston had a record of 40-24. NBA owners are hopeful of resuming the season in the summer. However, that is only possible if the coronavirus dies down and the CDC allows games to be played again. The Rockets, despite being 6th place out in the West, were considered title contenders since they were the only team in the NBA with 2 MVPs leading the charge. Both James Harden and Russell Westbrook were putting up stellar numbers for Houston before the season was suspended. And that's it for sports. The weather is next. Welcome back to weather tonight. Partly cloudy with a 30% or low chance of showers. The weather tomorrow, partly sunny with a 30% or low chance of showers. The winds south at 6 to 19 kilometers per hour. The sea is 1.2 meters, and the sunrise tomorrow will be at 6 a.m. And that's how we wrap up the major news package for today, Friday, April 3rd, 2020. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, Prime Minister Harris to be guest on Inside the News, Von Rader to bring live coverage of proceedings, and Minister of Labour explains relief fund and says no need for anyone to visit Social Security at this time. Regionally, Sister of Immigration Minister is the Bahamas' first COVID-19 related fatality. Internationally, experts tell White House coronavirus can spread through talking or even just breathing. And in sports, Cummins keeping fit and healthy and hopes to return to cricket soon. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Jarvis Brown wishing you a safe and enjoyable weekend.